Inside the Bank Plus studio.
You are listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome in. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone. Brought to you by the Bone-In Ribeye, Four Roses Bourbon, Kessler Prime, and the Renaissance. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-707-3750. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We got really dressed up for you this morning. I'm wearing my glasses and I have a pullover on. I did shower. Twitter handle, @BoBounds, driven by the Continental Tires at 49 Tire in Richland, Mississippi. We welcome in Hail State Insider 247 Sports. Genespage.com. He is Steve Robertson. Steve, big win for – that's an understatement. The program, Mississippi State, needed a win. They get one against Missouri. Talk about the muffed – how bad a team like this that's fragile, no margin for error, how bad they needed a muffed punt converted into a touchdown to get a little momentum going in a game.
Well, you know, it's one of the things, too, where it seems like there's been the ball bouncing away from State a lot this year. I mean, it just seems that when those kind of things happen, it doesn't work out in State's favor, and you go out and you have a bad offensive possession, and the next thing you know, you're gifted a touchdown there. And I think it's one of those things that begins to kind of get you going. You think, okay, well, maybe today's our day. And from there on, State really kind of laid the hammer down, and you look up, next thing you know, it's 44-18. You know, and great game for State, great game for Jaden Wallace and Will Rogers, and it seems like that's becoming a consistent theme. Jaden Wallace now 4 consecutive 100-yard receiving games, the first Bulldog to do it since Fred Ross in 2015.
Did you ever think that Jaden Wallace would even have half of the production that he's had this year, much less north of 40 catches?
No, I really didn't. And, you know, people forget, he didn't have a single catch against LSU. You know, I mean, he was the guy that targeted a couple times, but it was really because of COVID and some guys getting dinged up that, you know, he was kind of thrust into the starting lineup, and he's responded in a way that I don't think anybody truly expected. I mean, he's become one of the more consistent wide receivers in the Southeastern Conference the second half of the season. And so, no, I would have to admit that I did not expect even half of that this year. Maybe 2 to 3 years down the road, but he's been a real bright spot for the Bulldogs.
And you probably already know this because you're locked in on everything. Do you realize that they've got 4 guys? Even as clunky as the offense has been at times, as they've been through all this transition and opt-outs and losing their starting QB and playing all these freshmen, they've got 4 guys that have had over 40 catches, and one of those guys has over 50 catches. Did you know that?
Yeah, and what's insane about that, too, and I had a chance to watch a broadcast yesterday, is that Mississippi State leads the nation in freshman receptions this year, and a lot of that's got to do with checking the ball down to Jaquavius Marks, but that's a pretty remarkable statistic, and also shows, number one, that State's willing to play the young guys, but also that they've had to play the young guys, and I think that really bodes well for the future. And you run your scheme, but, you know, we kind of saw this trending this way. You know, once State goes on the road to Georgia and plays as well as they do, have a chance to win the game on the final possession. Same could be said for the Egg Bowl. Thought we took a step back against Auburn a little bit offensively, but, yeah, I mean, you put it together this weekend, and now you've got a chance to go win a bowl game and end the year on a 2-game winning streak and have a lot of goodwill pushing towards spring football.
Steve Robertson, genespage.com on the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale guest line. So looking at what all is played out here as far as offensive skill guys, they could have, I guess, everybody back, or everybody, but because anybody can come back for another year. So they could have everybody back offensive skill-wise or everybody but maybe one guy, right?
Yeah, and I think Osiris is probably going to go. I mean, that's just kind of an educated guess. But, yeah, I hear that Javante Payton would like to come back. You know, he was the guy expected this to kind of be his chance to put him some good things on film for the NFL, and he's been hurt most of the year. Had some big things early on, but I understand he's leaning towards coming back. So, yeah, you're right. Conceivably, you could have the offense just about return intact next year, and then, of course, you add a really good wide receiver class to that room.
What did you make of Brad Cumbus and you haven't heard his name much, but great catch and throw there for Cumbus to get his first touchdown reception of his career.
Yeah, which brings up an interesting trivia question that we kind of debated about. We haven't done the research yet. What's the last Bulldog to hit a home run and catch a touchdown pass? And I think right now the thinking is probably Scott Gamina. That's how far that thing goes back. I mean, that's a pretty elite group there. But, Cummins has always been a great athlete, and I thought he looked real natural out there. I mean, did a great job selling block against the backer to safety bails, and then Cumbus kind of leaks out there in the pass pattern. It was just a matter of could they make a throw good enough to keep him in bounds. It's a great job by Brad, and Will, of course, just kind of drops it in the bucket, and it's a touchdown.
Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, Mississippi State with a big win over Missouri, and they'll head to a bowl game in Fort Worth and play Tulsa. Emmanuel Forbes, on the pick, did you think that he would run it all the way in?
I didn't know if he could catch it. I mean, watching that replay yesterday, it's incredible how athletic that play was. And, he's got now 4 interceptions and 2 pick sixes on the year. A shoe-in as an all-SEC freshman. Could possibly get some all-American type freshman honors, too. We'll see how that thing's progressed. But, what's so interesting is last year, I got to give Barton Simmons some credit. And he really pushed last year for Emmanuel Forbes to be the top player in the state of Mississippi. And I'll be honest with you, I pushed McKinley Jackson. I had Forbes number 2. But the fact that he has hit the ground running the way that he has is probably not a huge surprise considering his length, athleticism. But the fact that he's locking up people in the SEC, this late in the process, I think you say, you know what, this is a guy that might have been, even at number 2, might have been a little bit undervalued because some of the plays that he makes out there you just don't expect from a freshman. The moment never seems too big for him. He had a couple of tough games, a couple of tough receptions against them at Georgia. Yeah, but by and large, he's been very, very consistent. Nearly won the job as a true freshman against LSU. And then, Ferg was the starter for 3 or 4 games, and then Forbes wins the job, and the Mississippi State secondary has been better ever since.
Defense, how anything can still happen, but how big of a recruiting land was it to sign Zach Arnett up to a multi-year deal and give him a bump at the defensive coordinator position for MSU?
Yeah, I think that's huge. It's one of those things, too, you look at. I think one of the things, if you're a recruit, you're looking at Mississippi State, one of the things that makes State cool is Zach Arnett and that defense. You look at how they're utilizing those guys, and it's a different guy every Saturday night. It's up there making plays for them. And locking that guy up, I think, is huge because of the fact that this 3-3-5 scheme allows you to kind of be a little more multiple and use some guys perhaps that are tweeners. And I think that's one of the things on the recruiting side of things when people say, well, he doesn't have a true position. I think in this defense, as long as guys can make plays, you find a position for them. And Zach Arnett clearly has those guys playing exceptionally well. And, I think Mike Leach made the right decision with the hire and has made an even better decision extending his contract. I believe it's going to be 3 years.
Steve, we'll catch up again later in the week. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Steve Robertson, genespage.com on the Out of Bounds Show, and the Abita Andy Gator guest line. So Mississippi State with a huge win. At one point it was 44-18. MSU was blowing out Missouri, and they score over 50 points. As Blake pointed out, MSU hit the over by themselves alone, just on how many they scored, which is pretty remarkable considering what they've been through. All right, we'll continue to take a look at what happened this past weekend and discuss the bowl games on the other side and the college football playoff. Welcome in. Good morning.